Okay, everybody, I want to welcome you all to the LTAC meeting for August 26th in 2020. It is 9 o'clock and this meeting's supposed to start, so I'm glad to see as many people here as are able to make it. I ask for a little bit of patience as I'm reading this off my phone while my super slow printer prints as slow as it possibly can. I think Mr. Casey is supposed to be here as well, is that correct?
Yes, he actually just told me that he will just be here at the end of the meeting when we discuss the LTAC agreement changes. And then I'll just go ahead and talk about the travel guide.
Okay, very good. I'll make a note of that. Perfect. All right, so just so that we can know who's here, I see a couple of phone numbers. I don't know people by their phone numbers, unfortunately. I remember back in the 70s when we all knew each other by phone numbers, but that was a long time ago. Makes me feel old. So if our city clerk could start the roll call, get started.
Okay, Councilor Broad,
I am here.
Vice Rubio,
I'm here.
Lindsay Kerfman. Okay, Marty Beeler, Tom Dolan, or Denley. I'm sorry, I get them both confused. Tom Denley. Okay, Councilor Broersma, looks like we only have two, so we don't have a
Yes.
quorum.
We do not. So what is protocol on this one? Without a quorum, it's kind of hard to make a recommendation, is it not?
Correct.
Okay, did you have an opportunity to speak to either Mr. Denley or Mr. Beeler?
I talked to Mr. Denley and he said that he would be in Clarkston this week and that he would try his best to connect. I did mail him the packet over to Clarkston. He's pretty busy, so I'm sure he just missed.
Okay, so we need to be
Hello. Okay.
back a week or so later, and I want to welcome those who are not necessarily part of the LTAC committee. I know we've got a couple here visiting, we need, welcome to give your input at the correct time. So we were going to go there. Active agenda. Since we have a quorum, we'll carry on. On the active agenda, item A is to provide direction for printing the new Sunnyside Travel Guide brochures. If we can get City Clerk Renteria to please give us a bit of a description on this.
Okay, so normally, so last year, LTAC recommended, and council approved that we put in some money to print the new travel guides that Yakima Valley Tourism does for us. And I'll put on the screen what this year's would look like. Yakima Valley Tourism contacted me and said, do you want to move forward with printing the new guides? And I talked to Mr. Casey and he said, there may be some changes that may happen. A lot has happened this year that may affect the businesses that are listed on that brochure. Let me get this on the screen first and then I'll talk. Let's see. Okay, so we're asking what LTAC's direction is on printing these. We have about 1,200 brochures left, and Mr. Casey wanted to take half of those up to Yakima Valley Tourism so that they have it at their little tourist spot there. And the other half we can distribute with the hotels here in Sunnyside or some of the other places like the newspaper and stuff. So we can print them now. It takes about a week, she said. So we just say we're ready to print. It'll take a week to get here, or we can hold off until next year. So it's whatever your direction is.
Okay, committee members, are there any comments on this?
And I can share that we've updated a few things. We've added some businesses, and we hope that all of those businesses that are listed on there continue to stay open. But like I said earlier, a lot has happened this year that may affect those businesses and if they continue to be in business in Sunnyside. So, and then we also added a few pictures. And then one of the major changes on here is we added the Yellowstone Trail on here. That's highlighted in yellow. And it's, you see here on the legend. And that's it.
So I saw one as you scrolled past Black Rock Creek and Grill. Is there still a grill there?
When we made these changes, they were open. I don't know about now. I haven't called them in the last since March 13th that this all happened, quarantine and stuff.
They're not open as far as I know. There's not a grill there.
Right. Doc's Pizza was in there for a little while and they're not there anymore either. So.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, let me make sure it was the one with the menu that I called. Let's see, this place, this one right here. Yep. I called them and they said that they were still serving food, but like I said, it's been some time since COVID.
Yeah. So it might almost be a good idea to find out if they're still in business at this point.
Right. So,
most of the restaurants they're looking at that are there, I've seen and have actually eaten at sometime during this entire thing, but there's a couple I haven't been to. So everybody's got better information than me. You're sure welcome to jump in and share it. So, I mean, what are you guys thinking about? Do we want to get these printed off, or do we want to move in that direction, or do we want to hold off on this? We've got 1,200 left, 600 to go to the Yakima location, and then the rest to be distributed among the hotels in town. They could go really fast, or they could languish at the hotels for quite some time, depending on how this entire situation goes forward. Thoughts?
So when will they be, if we hold off, when is the next time that we can do this again?
I spoke to Stephanie from Yakima Valley Tourism, and she said they can be printed anytime. You just tell us you're ready, and then it takes a week for the printer to get them done and then sent to Yakima Valley Tourism and then to us. I know that Jennifer and Stephanie from Yakima Valley Tourism are on our call right now. So if you have any more questions, I'm sure that they can answer as well.
I'm happy to answer questions. This is Jennifer.
So what is the cost for the printing?
Stephanie, is that I'm so
I can show on the screen what they had given us. I think it was like 13,000, and it also had a reduced amount. One moment. If Stephanie has it, if not, I can.
It's 13,029.
And that is, it's fine. It's within their budgeted amount that LTAC had recommended and council approved.
Okay, and then that 13,029, how many brochures does that print us?
40,000. Oh, my eyes are failing me. I am blind. It is on here. Stephanie, do you? Doesn't say. I'm not sure. Let me. I'm going to have to follow up on that 1 second.
I'm looking as well. Oh, here it is. Okay, here's the.
Can you guys hear me now?
I'm gonna put.
Yes, yes, we can.
Hi, this is Stephanie at Yakima Valley Tourism. Sorry, I didn't know that I could unmute myself. So for the 40,000 guides, it depends on how many pages you want to go. And the estimate that we have from last year, which will be honored, either the 20, the 24, or the 28 pages, and that's anywhere from roughly $9,000 up to a little over 11,000.
Okay.
Yeah. So we got a bit of a price break by repeating the project. So what Jacqueline's showing there, that's from last year, and that was what was presented from last year, of course, from what was it, the August meeting, I believe. And then I went back to Abbott's Printing, and we were able to get it a little bit cheaper. And so for the remainder of this year, with the 1,200 that's left over, it might not be a bad idea to continue with the existing project, only because tourism is going to start winding down. We're already into September, and we're going to see after October, we're going to see tourism after harvest and whatnot. It's going to really slow down, and especially with COVID, the governor a couple weeks ago had sent out information about restrictions, even in phase 2, for the farms and what they can offer. So hay rides and the mazes and things like that. So it almost makes sense to maybe just table the project for this year and save the money for next year, when perhaps Yakima County has advanced into, maybe by first quarter, we're into phase 3, where the restrictions are not as strict, and then have a better understanding of what the amenities are going to be in Sunnyside as far as tourism is concerned.
Well, and that's not a horrible idea. The other side of that is eventually we're going to come out of this on the other side, and I'd like to be able to hit it hard early and get ourselves on people's minds early for all of our activities, and see if we can recoup some of our tourism losses from this past year.
I might recommend printing them in February and getting them out so people can begin planning their spring travels. We could even print it in January and have them ready for red wine and chocolate if that event happens, which, who knows, but maybe print it in the first quarter so that it's ready to go. And by then we can make any changes to what we have here is the digital version, and Daniel can update that with business closures and openings and such.
Right, and that's the nice thing about the way we're doing it now, is that it can be updated very quickly and painlessly. So any comments on Jennifer's recommendation? Lindsay, you need to unmute yourself.
There, we got
There
it
you are.
now. I did it twice. I agree that we need to wait, and I like the idea but I do like the idea of doing it in February, because hopefully everything will be open back up, and we want to have people know what's going on at that time.
Amy, any comments?
I agree with doing it in February as well.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's the right direction as well. In February, we can take a look at things and see where we are as a valley, what we are allowed to do, how things have opened up or not, and make some projections from there. I think that's a good recommendation. So I'm going to make a note of that.
So as far as the project timeline, then we'll work with Jacqueline to get everything updated and have a target end date of, the end of December, beginning of January, so everybody has time to proof it, and then get it to Abbott's, and then also get it to the distribution company. Because along with the printing, there is the travel guide distribution with Certified, and I will get with Shannon at Certified to, if you guys are comfortable with it, the same amount, 17.5 and 17.5 in the Seattle and the Portland areas, or because of the unrest in those areas, we could look at other metro areas to distribute to. But I could give you guys some more examples to look at if you guys prefer to see what it would look like to go into other areas other than Seattle and Portland.
Okay. Yeah,
We would like to, I know last year we talked about going into Idaho areas, so I would definitely like to explore that.
Yeah, something that is part of our strategy is to look at Bend and Salem and Boise. So I could get you guys examples and I'll send them to Jacqueline so you can see what those rates would be.
And I just want to make a note that the 13,000, so Yakima Valley Tourism received these, or is going to receive these funds for 2020. So if you print in February, it'll be for 2021 budget. So anything in 2020 needs to be billed before December 31st. So
Okay. We'll do that then. You got it.
Perfect. Thank you. Any other comments on this issue or this item? I'm sorry. Okay, so if there's no objection, we'll continue with this recommendation. Next item on the agenda then is review our signature event proposals that we've received for the 2021 lodging tax funds and consider recommendation to City Council for approval. And we've got several events that are signature events for the city of Sunnyside, and they are listed first on your agenda if you have that before you. The first one is the Cinco de Mayo proposal, and they in 2020 were approved for $28,500. Their 2021 amount requested is $30,000 with a reduced amount at $25,000. Just going to give you an opportunity to comment on this one, and I do have a list here, so I can just go down the list. Amy, do you want to make any comments to this? This is your proposal.
I did talk to some of my sponsors that I normally go to. I didn't talk to all, but I did talk to some. And I had asked them if they were going to be able to sponsor for this next coming year. They couldn't give me an answer due to, you know, a lot of them have not, their business has decreased, or they haven't had the amount of funds that they normally do. I did talk to the health department a little bit of, you know, what are we looking at as far as if we do have events. They did say that they probably were going to require us to have, you know, hand sanitizer, mask, gloves, stuff like that for events. I did kind of get an estimate of what that's going to cost. A lot of businesses are increasing their prices due to they have not, they've been out of work, so their prices have increased in some of those areas. So that's where I'm at. I did ask for the same amount as I did last year, only because I don't know what kind of sponsorship I'm going to be able to get for next year. If the businesses are going to be able to sponsor, I want to still be able to get, you know, the quality of, you know, advertisement that I do receive, and all of the other items that I do get. I want to be able to still do that. I just don't know. They said probably by January they would know their budget if they will be able to sponsor for Cinco de Mayo. So, and that too, I don't know as far as like if I'm going to have to put an expense in for the charro competition, you know, more expenses for the other items that I really, you know, Festive Foods does help me a lot. I just don't know. I wasn't able to get a hold of them, so I don't know where they're at as far as the charro competition, but I'm kind of just budgeting in that I'm going to have to help out in more areas than normal.
Okay. Lindsay, comments or questions?
No, I don't really right now. Well, I guess, how many sponsors were you able to get before COVID?
Well, I had like I'm sorry, Spectrum Charter, HAPO, the credit, Lower Valley Credit Union. I was talking to like Pepsi and Coca-Cola because I've still been trying to get in there. Walmart is another one. They normally don't give me money. They give me supplies, which is whatever, you know, garbage bags, you know, if I needed gloves, any stuff like that. Walmart's the only one that said, yeah, we'll be able to help you. We just don't know how much until next year.
Okay. What was the amount of sponsors you were able to get in 2019 for Cinco de Mayo? Do you remember?
I don't off the top of my head. I kind of went, if you look, I kind of went off of what we got for 2019. So,
Oh, okay.
because obviously we didn't have Cinco, and everything that we did receive, we returned back because we didn't have the event.
Okay.
Vendors, we returned all vendor money. Some vendor money, they did say, hey, hold on to it for next year. But we, now that we know we haven't done the event, we've been returning everybody's funds back. So last year in sponsors, I got about 5,000. I did get Virginia Mason. That's another one that I did get
Okay.
last year, or
Okay.
2019, I guess.
Okay. That was the only question I had.
Okay. So Amy, I've got a question. Just as I'm looking at your beginning balance and your revenues and your expenses, I'm seeing a huge discrepancy. I mean, you're looking at $75,000 projected revenues and 112,000 in projected expenses. That's a big difference. What are you trying to do to make up that difference?
Well, normally we have vendors. We did increase our vendor fee this past year. I thought it was going to be, people weren't going to want to pay, but they were pretty much paying that, only because I did go bigger with the bands. Normally my balance is a little bit bigger than that, due to, we had the event from Cinco, and normally I save a little bit from that, but due to that, me returning all the, sponsor money, all of the vendor money, my balance is not as high as I guess our savings would be.
So do you have a plan for closing that gap?
Well, my plan is just to work hard to try to increase our sponsorship, to get up there so I can get the amount that I normally do. As you know, I do have a band saved, so I have an expense for the band because I still have to put the other amount, but some of that money did go towards one of those bands. So I'm in the safe where I've already put half of my deposit down for that band.
Okay, because that's one thing that does concern me, is if we're operating at a loss, we can't continue to support an event if it's showing a loss, and if we're projecting that already a year, well, not quite a year ahead. Really want to make sure that we've got steps in place to cover that gap.
Yeah, and how I've been taking it over, there's been, more and more expenses for the event. So since I started it, we've had to get an electrician out there. We've had to put, to cover invest in those, I call them speed bumps for the cords. So none of that has ever been purchased before for Cinco de Mayo since I've gone on it. So, and then I have to pay for all weekend for electrician to be on site, because they do come out and they do check and they do ask who's our electrician on for the weekend. And they've been getting a little bit more, asking for more stuff every year. Last year, the electrician had to plug in the sound at the gazebo. They wouldn't let my sound put in.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know if they're just, different rules every year. But I just kind of go with the flow. If that's what they're asking, I don't really want to argue with them. And I just kind of go with what I don't want to find. So.
Right. And arguing with them usually doesn't get you real far. And usually those rules exist because something happened somewhere else.
Yes.
So, and we all believe we can do everything ourselves. So, okay, well, that's the question I had, is I'm just concerned about that difference. 112 to $75,000 is that's a good amount of money, and that's going to need to be figured out somewhere or other.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, that one falls on you to do. So I'm counting on you, Amy, to do it, I guess.
I can do it. I have I mean, sponsors, and I really love doing this event. So I always put my 100%, and I know I can do it.
So here's the concern though. We're going to present this to council and council's going to ask the same question.
Mhm.
And they're going to want a real coherent answer. And so this gives you an opportunity to think that through and close that gap, I guess, before we present it to council. And the projected date for that is in September. So I guess that gives you something to work on, which, you know, at this stage of life, nobody wants homework, but that's where we are, because they're going to ask that question and we better have an answer for them.
Yes.
And I do have to note also that, you know, a lot of it does go, you know, for security and the Explorers Reserve and stuff like that. So that's something I mean, I noticed the same thing, but I kind of take into account the money that's going back into the community, you know, the local cliffs and things like that. So I know there's a gap, but yeah, I kind of took that stuff into account also thinking about it.
Right. I'm just trying to anticipate the questions that council is going to ask and the concerns that they're going to have. And if they weren't concerned about these sorts of things, they wouldn't be doing their job.
Yeah.
So we have to have answers for that. But you're right. A lot of this money is going to go back into the city. And obviously that's what we want. That's the purpose of these LTAC funds. That's the purpose of sponsoring these events, because it does generate a lot of good for the community overall. So any other comments about the Cinco de Mayo proposal? Okay, so there's two amounts here. The amount requested of 30,000, and then the reduced amount that they can work with is 25,000. So I'm not going to ask at this point for a commitment or a recommendation from this one. We're going to look at this. We're going to think about this. The proposal is very complete. So if you haven't had a chance to read through all of it, I recommend that we do and we study that a little bit. Obviously, Amy knows this one inside and out and can answer any questions you might have. So you filled this out now for a couple of years, Amy, and we get these and they're very slick and very well done. So give that some thought and let that work in your mind for a little bit. Moving on to item number 2 is also one of Amy's. A Sunshine Days proposal. In 2020, they were approved for $12,500. And this year they are requesting $15,000 with a reduced amount of $13,000. So again, we'll give you an opportunity to speak on the subject. Amy, I'm going to let you go first.
I think, what is it? Amount is 15 and the reduce is 10.
Okay, what I'm seeing on here is 13 as you reduced. But let me look at your actual proposal. Yeah, you're right. Your proposal says 10. So the agenda is saying 13.
I apologize for that.
With this one, I did try to do, at last meeting, we talked about doing a parade and trying to get a drive-by parade or just like a, you know, where people can park on the side and stay in their cars. I did talk to Janet. Janet told me to talk to the health department. I did email the health department and they didn't allow me to do the parade.
Oh.
I sent that information over to Jackie and Janet, so they both had it on, you know, record that what the health department did say. So I tried to put something together, but unfortunately, health department didn't allow me to do the parade for this year. For Sunshine Days, it's basically, I mean, I wanted to do the parade, do an event, do downtown, do activities. I don't have a whole lot to, just because I wasn't able to do it this year, but my plan is to make it, to grow it back and, you know, get it bigger. I did try to get the carnival, but they want to see us up and going for a couple, like at least a year or two before they can commit and say, okay, we can go to Sunnyside for this event.
So that leads to a greatly reduced event, doesn't it?
Yes. So, I mean, I don't have anything where I can say, this is what happened, this is what we did, only because we weren't able to have it this year.
So what are we left with?
I
That we
didn't
can do.
I didn't spend anything as far as for Sunshine Days in the budget for, what I received for last year.
Right. So what is it that we're going to be allowed to do at all for Sunshine Days? If we don't have the parade, if we don't have a carnival?
Well, for next year, I'm hoping I can do all of this stuff.
Okay.
For this year, I'm not able to. Health
This year we'll do
department
nothing. Okay.
said no. And I did send the emails to the city.
Yeah. Okay. So for next year, we're hoping to be able to have these back. The carnival might be a little bit iffy.
Yes.
And for next year, we may be able to have a parade, which we're hoping this is
Yes.
all finished by next year at this time.
Yes, parade, vendor booths downtown. I had talked to a car, do antique classic cars, maybe do a basketball. I had all these plans kind of set up of what I wanted to do. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to do any of it.
Okay. Very good. And so if you look at next year, hopefully all of these things start, because you've got a list of bands and different things you want to do. So, okay, Lindsay, any comments?
No, I don't have anything for this one. I know we're not making our decisions, but my first thought was to give the amount at least that she was approved for last year. And, since we didn't have this year, to see how it all goes. But I know we're not making any decisions right now, but that was just my first thought. It's just, we have to keep trying.
Okay. Very good. Okay. Yeah, and I've got some comments that I'm going to make about some of this as well later on in the meeting. So I was really looking forward to seeing things, go this year, because I thought that we could start somewhere and build from that. It has suffered, this particular event, over the last few years, and this is something that a fair number of people in the community would like to see come back. And so I was looking forward to this year. Now I'm looking forward to next year. So move forward on this and do what we can and hope for the best.
Counselor
Very good.
Berger, I do want to make a note. This is Jackie.
Yes.
It looks like when I scanned the packet for this, it was missing some pages, but in the hard copy that you each received, you should see all of the pages, because I don't see it on here on the scanned one. So I'll make sure that gets updated.
Yeah, it was fine in the hard copy. So,
Okay, perfect.
okay. Any more comments on the Sunshine Days proposal?
Not
No.
here.
Okay, seeing none, let's move on to item number 3, the Lighted Farm Implement Parade. And last year, in 2020, actually, they were approved for $20,000. The 2021 amount requested is the same, $20,000, with a reduced amount of $18,000. So each of you an opportunity to speak. And Lindsay, this is your item, so you get to go first.
Okay. It's kind of the same situation for 2020. The parade is going to look different, but we're going forward with plans. Next year, we plan on bringing the market back. So that's why the amount is the same, because that includes the market. And so that is really all I have as far as that stuff goes. And yeah, if there's just any questions for it, the Rotary is excited to do this again, but the lodging tax funds definitely helps us because I don't know if you noticed in the budget, pretty much anything that we do make from the parade goes, towards scholarships. It goes back into the communities somehow. And we do have plans in the future to put it back into the community even more. So yeah, if there's just any questions, just go ahead and ask.
Okay, Amy, your comments.
I kind of made a checklist off for all of the proposals. The only thing, I don't know if it's an issue, she just forgot to sign it.
I noticed that too.
So I don't know.
I was hoping it was only my, I did forget to sign that. Okay.
So I don't know, as long as Jack, the city's one is signed, if that's okay. I don't know if, what the protocol for that is. I just wanted to make note. But I mean, I thought it was really well put together. And I know that this was the first time that the Farm Implement Parade had to do more of the changes that we had asked. So I thought it was a really good proposal.
I would agree with that. It was also very nicely done. I like that you're able to show a profit of a little over $8,000. And like you said, Lindsay, you guys donate that to scholarships and that sort of thing, correct?
Yes.
Is that 100% scholarships or is that spread among other items?
No, that's other items because we also, we sponsor the swim team and there's a lot of other clubs that throughout the year come and ask. So we try to, we try to just put it back in the community some way or another. But some of it does go to scholarships.
Okay, and just a question kind of off to the side of that. So for this year's, the 2020 event, are you going to, or have you already spent all of the money, or is there going to be a savings from that, from a reduced event, or what is your anticipation?
I'm not sure with that. I mean, we're still going to be doing a lot of the advertising. And we also have found out we're not going to be getting as many sponsors. So we're still trying to figure things out. We're hoping to do an event with that, but we're still going to be doing a lot of advertising.
Okay.
So yeah, and we won't be having any revenue as far as the vendors or anything from the market though. So we're still working on that. We would hope that we would, but I can't say that right now.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think we're all kind of working from that area, which is that we don't know what we're going to spend because we don't know what we're going to make. And I'm just concerned about, okay, so a lot of our events didn't happen, so we may have a balance, but we've also, I think I read in the paper that tourism is down and tax income is down like 40% countywide. So that's got to be reflected in our lodging tax as well. If the county is down 40%, we're part of that. So I'm just thinking long-term what we're going to be able to give. We may have to be thinking about some of that there. At any rate, so my comments on that kind of follow along what others have said, what Amy said too. I noticed that you hadn't signed it, but we can get that, I think, corrected. I don't think that presents a huge issue unless somebody's got a big objection to it. I think there's a possibility you could go put a signature on it in about 2 minutes. But
I had to go redo it. And then the paper that I put in there, I didn't sign those ones because I turned it in, then I had to go add a couple of things. And that was one of the things I had to go add and I forgot to sign those. So.
Well, at this point, it looks like it just means you're human and also prone to making mistakes like the rest of us are. So, okay. Are there any other comments on this item?
No.
Okay, so very good. So now we've got our general proposals and grab those a second. I think the first one on our list is our marketing tourism project through Yakima Valley Tourism. And we've got two members of Yakima Valley Tourism who, if there's not any other comments, we may give you the opportunity to speak as well. This is an ongoing item. Last year, 2020, they were approved $60,625.95. Their request for this year is $78,538.32. A reduced amount, they could lower it to $73,538.32. So Let me organize myself here for half a second. There we go. So we're going to give each of the committee members an opportunity to speak to this one. And Amy, we're going to let you go first.
I don't know if you guys can see, but did you guys do this one? Is this one part of the Yakima Valley Tourism?
Which one are you looking at?
I have this magazine that I found, well, I picked up, and it says Yakima Valley Visitors Guide, but it was 2020. So I don't know if this was part of what you guys do.
They would need to see which publication it is.
Our publication says Yakima Valley Travel Guide on the top, and it is of a mountain scene with a woman paddleboarding. And so if it's visitor's guide, that would be Yakima Valley Publishers. That's Bruce Smith.
So that's not even you guys?
Nope.
Okay, that was one of my questions. Okay.
Yeah.
I know last year we had talked about a photographer and a videographer. Was that implemented for last?
We did hire Cody Beebe. He came down and he filmed at the lighted parade last year with the expectation that the funds would be coming from 2020. And then once we got into 2020 and all of the events were canceled, we did put that videography on hold so that we could carry those funds forward and not spend them, and resume that project again once events are back on the table.
Okay. Does that answer your question, Amy?
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions?
Not that I can think of from my list that I have.
Okay.
One of the increases that we have here in the budget is the addition of a second publication to advertise in. We have been advertising for Sunnyside with Northwest Travel and Life, and we're proposing that we add AAA Western Journey in print, and then one of their e-newsletters. This is in response to what we know about how people are going to begin traveling when they are able to do so and when they feel comfortable doing so. People are going to be traveling within their regional radius on road trips rather than air travel. So being able to capture the market of road trippers who read AAA Journey, I think would be a really valuable strategy for Sunnyside.
Okay, thank you. Lindsay, any comments?
I was curious about the Western Journey. Does it do a fourth issue? And is there a price to do a fourth issue, or is it just for the 3?
They do 4.
Okay.
I had selected to do just the 3 and not the winter.
Okay. So do they have one come out in September, October?
Their schedule, my mind spins with so many different publications.
On our budget, it's March, April, May, June, July, August.
Okay, there we go.
Okay. And then I did have a question with Northwest Travel and Life for their, I know obviously for this year, but for September, October. So am I correct in saying that you guys would be advertising the parade, the lighted parade for the September, October one, and then?
That's what we've done in the past, yeah.
Okay. And for the video production, I remember from last year, you guys were saying, that's something that's just going to be, 1 year, and then we can use the same footage for at least a few years and then revisit it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Okay.
he will provide the B-roll for your use in other projects as well. For instance, when he did the lighted parade, we were able to get the B-roll footage and send that to somebody who was doing a video feature about lighted parades. Jacqueline. Yeah. So that's nice to have that footage that you can utilize in other ways.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think that's all. I was just curious if in the future the budget is going to be lower because there's certain things you might not have every year.
Sure.
So I just wanted to know. Yeah. And it's the same for photography, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
We like to keep updated library of video and photo assets, but it doesn't need to be something that's a huge expense every year. It can be a smaller incremental expense just to keep freshening things up, and it doesn't necessarily need to be a $2,500 investment for photography every year.
Okay, thank you. Lindsay, you managed to get several of the questions I had answered, so I'm going to limit myself to a comment. You made a comment about the fact that people are going to be taking road trips when they start traveling again, less and less air travel. My experiences over the summer would back that up. I just got back from a fairly lengthy road trip. It wasn't a vacation, it was a funeral, but nevertheless, I had to drive back to Minnesota and Iowa and then back. Obviously, when I left, the Sturgis Motorcycle Rally was going on, and so I saw a lot of motorcycle-related travel going on. But on the way back, that was all done. And I was seeing traffic through South Dakota, Wyoming, and Montana, especially people from the East Coast. I saw a lot of Massachusetts license plates, Pennsylvania, Ohio, New York, Florida. Seems like there were hardly anybody in Florida. They were all in Montana at the time. But we're seeing a lot of road trips. I've spoken with a lot of people, and they're saying that recreational vehicle sales have just skyrocketed over the course of this summer. A boat vendor that I know said that he has had his best 2 months in this year's May and June. And I didn't see his reports for July yet, but I'm guessing that he wasn't far off. He had completely liquidated his inventory of new stuff. RV dealerships are saying the same thing. Motorcycles are selling like crazy. So people are going to be using those things, and we do need to be poised to take advantage of that. The jump in price from 60,000 to 78,000 is considerable, and there may be some balking from council on that amount of an increase. I want to make you aware of that. Not trying to pop balloons here, but I also just want to make you aware that there could be some pushback from that as we look at how we're going to be spending the LTAC money over the course of this year. So other than that, I don't have any questions about your proposal. I have seen your magazine, the Yakima Valley Tourism Guide, at many different locations. I have the opportunity to move around the state, and I have seen it from Wenatchee to Everett to Spokane, rest areas and different things. How you guys get it out there, I don't know. I know somebody else was making a proposal that they would hit Eastern Washington a little harder than you do, but I still see it out there. So somehow or other, somebody's getting it out there. And so I'm quite pleased with that. In fact, I think I've seen it out of state as well in some of the northwestern areas. So it is there. So.
Thank you.
Yeah, I do. I have one more thing.
Okay, Glenn, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I would like to see, what the difference between lowering Seattle and Portland area and going higher on, the Spokane, Boise, those areas. I would like to see that in the proposal.
Okay.
As far as the Yakima Valley Travel Guide or the Sunnyside Travel Guide?
The Yakima Valley, the Sunnyside Travel Guide.
Okay, yeah, I will get with our contact over at Certified Folder to see what the other markets would look like. And then just so you guys know, our 2020 travel guide that you're looking at right now, we had suspended distribution of that for this year because before the pandemic, we had already gone to print. And so, pardon me, we have a lot of copies available still, and so does Certified. So we're going to continue to distribute the 2020 guide into 2021 because we know we're not going to be able to raise the level of funding to support the project. But with that, Journal Graphics is the print agency we use in Portland because it's such a huge project, 100,000 copies and 70 plus, 80 plus pages. We had to go to the biggest vendor we could find. And but anyways, Journal Graphics can make changes to the digital version for us. So we, for instance, for page 67 there for the Sunnyside 2020 events, we could update that page to read the 2021 events. So at least the online version can be updated, just so you guys know. And we did, for our own distribution purposes into 2021, we did reduce some of the sites in the Seattle and Portland areas because of the unrest. and we added the ferry system, and we are going into Oregon and Idaho. So Boise, Salem, and Bend. So we'll be able to see what that will look like for our travel guide.
And we also were going to be putting together a supplement to the travel guide, a 2021 events guide. It'll be primarily digital, and we can distribute it digitally throughout the beginning of the year. And as things evolve, we may choose to print it, to create a print version that we can use. So we'll be updating those events for the Valley as a whole.
Okay, any other comments, committee members?
No, I don't have any comments.
Okay, I thank you all who commented. Jennifer and Stephanie, thank you for being here. It is helpful to be able to get that information, and in some small ways, I think Zoom is helpful because we are able to be here and then not be here when we're done. So if you guys choose to sign out, you may do so, but you're also welcome to continue on with us. It's up to you. But thank you for your input. All right, let's move on then to our next one, item number 2, sort for the cause. In 2020, they were approved for $2,500. For 2021, they are asking for $5,000 with a reduced amount of $4,000. And just give committee members an opportunity to comment on this. I know this is one that we have been funding for some time. So I'm just going down on the list here in order. So Amy, I'm going to let you go first. Any comments or questions?
Hey, I'd just like to pipe in here. I'm Connie Hover. I'm representing Sort for the Cause this morning.
Okay. Go ahead, Connie.
Oh, I was just going to let you go through your thing and then
Okay.
any questions. Yeah, I
No,
just want you to know
absolutely.
that that's who I am.
Okay, absolutely. We'll definitely give you the opportunity to comment as soon as the committee members have had their say, or if they have any questions, you may certainly answer those questions.
Yeah, and this is the first year I've put this proposal together. So, and I had just like a couple days to do it. So I learned a lot from looking at some of the other ones.
So, okay, very good. Thank you. Amy, anything?
I did go through the checklist. You know, they did have their experience, their the vision, the references. I did see they were unable to host their event due to COVID. I did like that they did add what they do for advertisement, since it was one of the requirements on there. It did say like how much we have gave them, and did please provide a sample of advertising, and they did do that. So it was really, thank you for doing that. It kind of helps seeing that, you know, they are advertising. I personally haven't gone to this event. I know in the past Julia Hart has, and she spoke very well about this event.
Okay.
So it's a participation event, and we have, it's a horse and cattle event. And we have riders that come in from our local valley, but a lot from the west side of the state. We have people come in from Idaho, Montana. We have people fly in from California. Of course, all of those people need hotel rooms and whatnot. And so
Canada.
Pardon?
Oh, this is Shelley. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you fine.
Yes.
Okay, I was just adding, and even Canada in the past.
Yeah. So yes, that's Shelley Speck, and we have the event at their property. So, and it's a pretty established event. There's a lot of riders that say it's their favorite event of the year. So we were hoping to make this year our 10th anniversary year, but we've had to postpone that, of course, till next year. We did get a good start in sponsorships for 2020, and with communicating with those, some of them wanted to just roll their sponsorship over to next year, but some of them, because we give all of our money away to our 3 local charities. So I don't know if you saw that down in there. We have Wellness House, Children's Wishes and Dreams, and then HeartLinks Hospice and Palliative Care, which is, you know, in Sunnyside. And these organizations, the money we donate is like the largest that they receive, and it's a big part of their annual budgets. So by not having our event this year, that impacted them. So we're hoping to make up for that next year. And
Okay.
advertising comes in. We advertise specifically through radio and television. And we would like to be able to hit more primetime spots, which, as you know, those are more expensive. And it validates our event to sponsors, because it's like Sort for the Cause, two-man ranch sorting. What is that? So when they see it on TV, you know, a lot of times we'll go to those sponsors, and when we say who we are, they go, oh yeah, I saw you guys on TV, or I heard you on the radio. So it really helps us to get our name out there.
Okay, thank you. Lindsay?
No, I didn't. I mean, they had everything, and I like to see everything. I know that this is a very popular event. My only question was actually for the hotels, and those representatives aren't here. So I was just going to see if they had any, if they seen any increase during that time of year in the past in the hotels. So I wasn't sure about that. And looking at the guide that you guys have, it's wonderful. I think the only thing I would love to see is something, if you were able to use like the Sunnyside logo or something, just to kind of like put the city of Sunnyside out there a bit more. I would love to see that in the future.
I believe we have that on our television ad, and it all depends on the amount of the donation. You know,
Okay.
we have some that our title sponsors donated like $6,000, you know, per year. So, you know, the higher the donation level, the more publicity you're going to get. But we do have it listed there on our sponsor banner that is at the event. You see,
Yeah.
Diamond City of Sunnyside. Yeah, so we do put you out there. And Shelley, isn't that right? Didn't we have them on our television
Yes.
ad? Yeah.
Yes, we did, but we could also, what you're looking at's not made up for 2021, so we'd love to add it.
Yeah, that was the only
Sure.
comment that I had. But yeah, that everything else looks really good.
Yes, we can definitely do that.
Okay, so thank you on that one. I just want to say that I just really appreciated your detailed financial information. Seeing what you're able to donate and all of that, that's great. I mean, my horse experience involves me renting a horse and riding for a couple of hours in the mountains. If it has an engine involved, I'm usually pretty much in tune with that. But I have never heard anything negative about your event. Everybody speaks very highly of it. It's very highly thought of throughout the community and throughout the valley. Everybody who knows about it just raves about it. So that's well done.
Thank you.
I love to support events like this. So yeah, that's great.
I have a question. Are we included in the Sunnyside travel guide? If not, we would like to have a little, I can't remember if we've been in there before or not.
You know, I don't have the answer to that. I noticed both Jennifer and Stephanie are still on. Do either one of you have an answer to that?
I'm looking at the at the template that we put in our packet, and I know it looks like the signature events are featured on there, and then of course the restaurants and the attractions, as far as like the hops and the brews and the wine tasting.
I don't think this one has been covered before, no.
Okay. So I guess that would be a decision for Jacqueline and LTAC. You know, what do you guys want in your travel guide, and then whatever you want in there, we'll put it in there. Daniel will
Sure, that's
design.
great. Yeah, and Shelley, you could probably address the hotel, can't you? I mean, you are the one that communicate with them and reserve a block of rooms for our volunteers and for riders that come in.
Correct. I usually block 20 rooms, and we do pay for our judges their hotel rooms because they travel. They usually get paid to do this, but they volunteer. And I know we use the, I'm sorry, my mind's blank, right up here, Best Western, because it's nearby, and we kind of use that as our host hotel. And I know they've always done real well with our group. Sadly enough, most of these people stay in their own trailers, but there are the ones that are flying from California now that stay in the hotels. And everybody buys gas and the restaurants.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any other comments on this agenda item?
Did they use any funding from this previous year
No,
that we gave them? No?
no.
No, because our event was canceled. And we were just getting ready to, we actually had our advertising ready to run, and we had to pull it the last minute.
Right. And in the past, last year was a lesser amount, but we have used, I think at least 4,500. We use usually everything we've got. And the nice thing about, I don't know if you know about the radio station and the TV match our ad budget for being a nonprofit. So.
Okay.
And any money that we have to put out of our own pockets, it just takes away from what we were able to donate to our charities.
Correct. And that would be true across the board for anybody who's donated. But yeah, that's good. I'm glad you mentioned that. All right. If there's no further.
Dean, I just wanted to make sure that everyone, I saw how much they spent on the hotel rooms, and I thought, just in case any of the other members missed that, as far as taking it to council, to mention again that they're putting money back into the community and back into what LTAC is all about. So.
And City of Sunnyside has helped support them through LTAC funds for some time. And I have not heard from council any negative comments about this. I think that they can count on at least some support. So I think that we're good there.
I appreciate that.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming and joining us this morning. Okay, if there's no other comments on that item, let's move to item number 3, the Jerry Taylor Veterans Plaza, the American Legion Post number 73, 2020. They were approved for $17,000 for 2021. They're again asking for $17,000 with a reduced amount of $13,000. I'm just going to keep it in order. Amy, what have you got for us?
Jackie, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's on here. I was looking where it said that they hadn't been previously funded since 2018. I know we funded them when I got on. So I don't know if that's right, if that's wrong. I feel like we funded them. We've been funding them for a while.
Jackie, you want to comment on this?
Yes, so for 2019, I don't think that they received any funds. Let me double check. I'm going to pull up the APVs. One moment.
I believe not, because it was in question whether we could fund them or not.
That was for 2020.
Oh, I thought that was 2019.
It was. It's like it's so confusing. We review it in 2019 for 2020 funds, so it's hard when we're referencing back to it.
Okay.
Okay, so for 2019 funds, they didn't request any. Yeah, they didn't request any. And then so 2020 was the last time. So this year is the last time they got money. Let me look at 2018. 2018. Sorry, my computer. So 2018, they received $17,000. So nothing for 2019, but 2020 they did get 17,000, which was approved just a few months ago, or July last month.
Yeah, I was gonna say a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
And do they do any advertising for this? Like, are we, is it anywhere, any advertising that we we have that in Sunnyside?
So for their I skipped it. So their proposal is that it's not for advertising, it's for the actual physical walls. So there's two parts where you can do tourism promotion or you can do a tourism related facility. So that they've tagged it here as the tourism related facility. So it wouldn't be advertisement for that. It would just be whatever brings in tourists to their walls here. And so now that council has approved that ordinance, it corrects everything so that we would be okay with the auditors. Obviously, we won't know that until they audit, but some of the direction that we received from MRSC, the auditors, and our legal team, it seems like everything is in line now to be qualified for that tourism related facility.
Okay, that's my question. I know we had touched base that it was going to council, but I wanted to double check that it was all that was cleared.
It seems like we are in line for it to be okay for the tourism related facility. So it wouldn't be advertisement, it'd be the actual physical walls.
Okay.
Yeah, and council did approve that, and so it looks as if we're like Jackie said, like we're okay. In answer to your question for advertising, we do have a freeway sign in either direction coming towards Sunnyside, advertising the Jerry Taylor Veterans Plaza. And I have seen it elsewhere too. It's not something that they put like in the newspaper or on the radio or anything like that. It's something that they want people to come to see throughout the year. And people are, I'm not sure how they're keeping track of that, but they do know that there are some numbers of people who are coming, similar to the numbers who show up and come to the museum, for example. But yeah, like Jackie said, it's not about advertising on this particular proposal. It is about the actual facility. They'd like to get those granite walls installed, and that's an ongoing process. So any other comments or questions, Amy?
No, that was all I had.
Okay, Lindsay, your turn.
I didn't really have too many questions as far as that. I did make a comment about this for the same thing for the travel guide, just like Start for the Cause was saying, is that I would like this to be in the travel guide or something to let people know, because it is I think a really interesting thing for people to know and to come and see. And I also just wanted to comment that that they did put on here that they're hoping just 2 more times to ask for funds and then it will be complete. And that, we have funded 5 of them, but there's 20 walls. So obviously they're funding a lot themselves too. So that was all I really had.
And one of our goals, and we don't talk about it a great deal, but one of our goals is for these events to become self-sufficient and not need ongoing funding year after year after year. Now we've got our signature events, and some of those will always need funding. And there are some events that simply cannot become self-sufficient. We've talked about this in the past, and so that we have to look for ways to continue to fund those. But yet they're there, and I think they're valuable in the city. Is there anybody from the Jerry Taylor Veteran Plaza that's on this meeting? I see a number that I don't recognize that would like to speak to this issue. Hearing none. Okay. Thank you for your comments, everyone. We will move on to our next item, which is the Sunnyside Community Float. Miss Sunnyside Committee, they were approved in 2019 for $5,000. They are asking for 2021 for $3,500 with a reduced amount of $2,500. So that shows a decrease in the request. We give committee members an opportunity to speak to this one as well. And I think somebody is on the line. There's Kim. So we'll let you answer questions that any committee members may have. So Amy, you're first up again.
On the float, they did have all, I did make the checklist like I did with everybody else. The only thing I didn't see was that they didn't have samples of like the advertising on the float. I know it does say on here, but other than that, that's the only thing that I didn't see on here for the float.
So when you're referring to samples of the advertising, like a description of what would be on the float?
More, yeah, like, you know, I know you guys have the trailer, and you guys do advertising on that or any other.
Yeah, so the trailer's being completely revamped and everything's being taken off of it. So it's being completely updated. If you've seen the trailer the last few years, it still had Funny Farm written on there with one of our old businesses. So everything's been taken off, and all of the businesses are being put back up there that have been supportive of the Miss Sunnyside program. And on the float itself, we always try to advertise our main events in Sunnyside and when they are: Cinco de Mayo, Sunshine Days, and Lighted Implement Parade, and when those dates are. That's always a requirement that we give the families when they build the float, that those 3 dates and advertising of those events are incorporated somewhere on the float when they design that. If that's what you're referring to, I'm sorry.
Did that answer your question, Amy?
Yeah, that's the only thing that I didn't find on there, but
Okay.
that was the only thing that I was gonna ask. And then for the float, you guys are asking for basically the expense for the vehicle and administrative expenses, and I think that's about what you guys put on there for the float. Is that correct?
Correct.
So it's more of the building of the float.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay, Lindsay.
The only thing that I noticed in here on the 2019-2020 budget was for income was LTAC for the float for 8,000 and for the pageant for 5,000. But I just wasn't, I didn't think that we had given any money last year. And I just wasn't sure about that. I was gonna ask Jackie.
Yeah, we weren't given any money last year, so that could be an adjustment on that.
Okay. And then I wondered if there was any plan as far as, you know, I know this year, obviously you guys can't, but the girls handing out brochures or anything with the events on there?
Yeah,
For-
and it's happened in the past where we definitely have stuff, because when they're getting ready for the parades, if you've been involved in that, which I know some of you have, there's lots of mingling with different towns, and you're trying to advertise and entice people to come to your parade just like they're at that parade. And the girls are trading buttons, and there's usually always something we have printed up. Obviously we don't have something for this year, but for the spring we will have something, you know, and our dates on there, and places they could stay, and just some of the things to try to get them to come to us. They're really excited when they see our float and meet our girls, but we always like to reciprocate and ask them, you know, come to Sunnyside. And we've gotten a few people in the past. So that is something we always try to have. I can't speak that it's been every year they've had that, but that is definitely something, because the girls talk about our town and the events. That's what we encourage them to do.
Okay, Lindsay, anything else?
No, I guess I would just say that when you guys do that the next time, definitely, I mean, as far as the Lighted Farm Implement Parade goes, reach out to us. We can get you the logo and all information that you need and everything.
Awesome. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, and the only thing I have to say is that there's a reminder that you know, our float and those sorts of things, they're not revenue generating. And so
Right.
as you look at the financial statement, they're not bringing in a lot of income other than what they are given through sponsors or through LTAC. Yet they promote Sunnyside statewide. I've had the privilege of knowing quite a few of the girls involved because they're the same age as my children, and the amount of work and effort that they put into this is absolutely tremendous. And I happened to be in Ephrata one time a few years ago, and it coincided with their parade, and there was the Sunnyside float, and it looked fantastic. So I think that they do the job, and the idea is to promote Sunnyside and bring people to Sunnyside, and this is one that's never going to make money, but it is going to reflect well on our city. And I've always been quite proud of the float that we've produced, and have always been quite proud of the young ladies who are out representing our city. So I will probably recommend this one really highly to council, whatever we decide to do on that. I do appreciate the reduced amount requested in light of our financial uncertainties with LTAC in the next year. That is awesome that you're able to do that and keep us hopefully a little more solvent in this fund. So thank you for your consideration on that as well. Any other questions or comments to this item?
I just had one. I know in previous I think it's SeaTac or Moses Lake, they hadn't attend, and I don't know if is that something, with the financial of LTAC helping out, are you guys able to go to those bigger cities to kind of promote? I know there's there's more people over there, or is it something that's kind of not, let me say, it's not saying it's not worth, but it's kind of more of a, I say it's not bringing back what you guys are hoping, or that's just some of the questions I had. Are you guys going to add more, parades to expand to reach out more cities?
So we did Moses Lake 2 years ago when Janessa was on there.
Mhm.
We did not go back last year that we had parades. And the SeaTac was becoming cost prohibitive because they're actually charging, from what I hear. And I'm not the float person in the way of scheduling them, but what I did hear about SeaTac is that they're charging people to actually be in the parade. There is a fee for that. I can't speak to that, but that's what was shared at our meeting. And it's becoming cost prohibitive to try to even stay in the Seattle area with doing hotels for all 4 families. And so what we did is make sure we still love going to Spokane and the lighted parade, and it is not as cost prohibitive as Seattle has been. And so Janessa's group, so that was probably 3 years ago, that's the year we did not go. And maybe even the year before they stopped going to SeaTac or Seafair, I'm sorry. So I think it's just, maybe that is something we could consider and ask for funding for maybe that specific parade in coming years, because it's a great event and it does promote our town. I just don't know all the logistics, but that may be something we can consider, Amy.
Okay. That's the only questions I had.
Okay.
All right, other comments or questions?
No,
All right,
I'm good.
okay, thank you, Kim.
Uh-huh.
All right, the next item on the agenda is item number 5, Miss Sunnyside pageant and the Miss Sunnyside committee. In 2019, they were approved for $5,000. For 2021, they are asking for another $5,000 with a reduced amount of $3,500. Once again, committee members, opportunity to comment. Amy, you're up.
This one I was kind of, I don't know, maybe it's for LTAC decision. I know as far as Sunshine Days, I was gonna put in Miss Sunnyside for advertisement, and I know in here they were asking to advertise the pageant, so I don't know where that, how that, I mean, I'm advertising for Sunshine Days. I don't know what other advertising they were thinking of doing. Obviously, I wasn't able to work with them this year. I did talk to Diana to kind of make sure we were on the same date, stuff like that, for when we were going to plan this coming year. So I don't know. It's kind of hard for for me to say, oh, well, we did this and this when we didn't able to have the event. So that was one of my questions for, I guess it'd be for Dean. I don't know.
So what are you asking then, Amy? Are you asking if there's a possibility where that you could combine advertising with the pageant?
Well, I mean, I was already gonna put the pageant because it's part of, Sunshine Days. And I know in here, they're asking to advertise the pageant as well. So that was one of my questions, what other advertisement they were thinking of doing, or
Oh, I think in the past, the advertising has been, we've printed out things that go around the whole community in the restaurants and everything for the pageant itself. Advertising for, I think initial advertising to promote the girls to apply to, to run, to be part of it. And then the events that the girls do throughout the summer prior to the pageant itself. So all of the community events, like I think that's what Diana was referring to as well, Amy, but I'm not sure. I know you worked really closely with Diana picking dates and everything. So maybe that more is a Diana question, but yeah, but I just know that there is definitely would be advertising to promote it.
So it does seem to me like it would be mutually beneficial for both events. I mean, Sunshine Days and for the pageant to work together on advertising, potential to save some money on one end or the other,
Right.
and combine efforts, because we really do want to work together. We don't want to be advertising at cross purposes to each other for the same weekend. But it's a good question, Amy. Thank you for that one. Any other questions from Amy?
No, I know that was my only question, was kind of for the advertisement. And I know they didn't supply a sample of what they did do, for previous year in advertisement. But then, my question was, that was my big question. I didn't want to, if we can save, I guess, for advertisement, I'm all for putting them, in the radios and the news, and, working with them to, get the girls' pictures, any of that stuff. But that was my only concern that I was, thinking of.
Okay, thank you, Amy. Lindsay?
I was wondering, as far as for the pageant and people coming, do you guys have anything from the past, any surveys or anything that you've done of how many that have come from out of town and stayed at hotels, like family members of the girls or anything like that?
We don't have any surveys, so I don't have actual data to share. I'm sorry.
Okay. And then is there any do you get any kind of, do you guys ask the hotel for any kind of sponsorship, or you do any advertising of the hotels, on your Facebook page or anything like that?
I think if there is a joint, we definitely could do that. I don't know that that's happened in the past.
Mhm.
I can't, it's not my line right there, but I could ask and find out. But I think it's a great suggestion. Even in our programs, I know we put our advertisers, so that could be something too. We could add them in there as well.
Okay.
To promote that, promoting our tourism. Yeah.
Yeah, I just wasn't
That's
sure.
a
As
great
far as,
idea.
and I know there's, royalty Facebook pages and things like that. So I didn't know if you guys didn't know.
I think, no, you've got a great suggestion, because that is something we could definitely put on Facebook, visiting Sunnyside, come to our pageant, here are some locations to stay. That would be something that social media is getting so much easier, and more people are tuning into that. It's just people like me trying to figure out exactly how to put those things on, and I'm getting better at school since we're all online now. So I think that's a great suggestion.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Lindsay. Okay, so I have a question as well, and I feel kind of bad pounding on people's budgets and all, but I'm looking at your revenues and your expenses, and they're exactly the same, 14,000 and 14,000, which is nice. You're not, planning on a deficit. But what happens if council approves you for $3,500 instead of the $5,000 you're asking for? Where are you going to make up that difference?
I think it's going to just have to be in trying to get the girls to get more sponsors and asking more community members to help support that, or making some cutbacks to the actual program itself. We've talked about that. We only can put on a program that we have the funds to cover. So we would only order this if we had the funds to do this. It could be for the decorations. It could be cutting back, we've asked the girls, hey, we need funds. We didn't get proof for LTAC last year. We had girls bringing in sponsorships. We feel with COVID-19, it has hit so many businesses. We don't want to ask businesses for additional funds. And so that's why we're trying to make every penny go as far as we can. So there probably will be some cutbacks, because I don't see in this economic state that we're in as a nation that it's going to improve so much for us or any of us.
Okay, good. Thank you for that answer. I know these are hard things to project.
It is. It's really
especially
difficult
this year, but it's always tough to project a budget and hit it spot on. It's really tough.
And the one thing, Dean, we do our Spirit of Sunnyside dinner. That's the one big fundraiser we do. And, it's kind of a joint effort with the city and honoring our citizens, but that is the fundraiser. And we weren't able to do that. We do have a date set for this fall, but as we know, we may not be able to do that come November, beginning of November. So we're keeping our fingers crossed, but that is where we make our money right there, is to try to support it that way.
Right. Well, we may have to put up plexiglass dividers between each chair at the table or something. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The world's starting to look weird. But anyway, thank you very much. If there's no other comments on this item, then we will move forward.
I'm going to come out. If you guys have a question, feel free to call me. Jackie has my number, but I do have a parent meeting in a little bit.
Okay.
Thank you guys for having me.
Thank you for being here, Kim. All right, our next item number 6, the Hardwood Classic, or 509 Hardwood Classic, Sunnyside School District. In 2019, they were approved for 5,000. For 2020, they did not get approved for any. 2021, they are asking for another 5,000 with a reduced amount of 4,000. So comments from committee members. Let's switch the order. Let's really go big this time. Lindsay, you're first.
I was ready.
I thought, well, I have something to say. Well, I have a couple of things. First of all, Sunnyside School District isn't that considered a public agency, or is it because they put nonprofit? I just wasn't sure. I wanted clarification on that.
That's a good question.
Because I get that 509 Insanity, that organization is a nonprofit, and all their information, all of the paperwork has that on there, but then their organization under their name, they put Sunnyside School District. So I wasn't quite sure. And then the comment that I had is that they are missing all of their requirements. I know I missed my signature, so I don't have a lot of room to say stuff, but they didn't put any of their experience, any of the new requirements, but they're also missing the budget, or what the money was used for last time that LTAC gave them money, and insurance. I didn't see it. So those are actually just comments that I had. I have questions if anybody is here from that organization, but I guess that's more for LTAC members also.
No, and those are good questions. And I don't know, Jackie, do you have any comments on the whole nonprofit versus the school district situation?
So we kind of ran into this 2 years ago, not last year, but the year before. Last year, they submitted an application for 2020 funds, but it was very incomplete. It just had the actual our proposal and nothing, no attachments, which is why I just informed the group that it came in and that I didn't put it on the agenda because it wasn't fair to everybody else who had included everything. And then in the year before that, their application said Sunnyside School District. And so he had corrected and said, no, it's not Sunnyside School District, it's 509 Insanity. He said if I'm remembering correctly, the reason he had put Sunnyside School District is because that's where they're holding the events at. And so I think that was a mistake on his end. And you're right, that a lot of the requirements, the new requirements weren't attached, but I put it out there so that you guys can still review it, because I know he did include some of them. And that week I had 3 agendas to publish. So I was like, I have to just load it all in there and let the committee decide what they want to do with it. I normally wouldn't have attached it, but I did see that they attached some of the requirements, and so I just included it anyways. And it's the same for the next two, for this application and the next one. They put Sunnyside School District, and it was Lupe Maldonado that dropped it off, and he is part of 509 Insanity. So that's why I think it's an error, but I'll let you guys decide what to do with it.
Okay, thank you.
And I don't see anybody from their organization on our participants.
Further questions, Lindsay?
Okay. No, it would be just for them. So
Okay.
I think no more for me.
Amy, your questions or comments?
Honestly, I didn't really review it because I feel like it was incomplete. All the other applicants took the time to fill out their experience, their personal, the project approach, their vision. I mean, they didn't even put their revenue on here. So, I mean, for me, it's incomplete. And then they have overnight stayed and paid. They only put 2 people, 2.
Mhm.
So that's where I'm at with that.
Okay, and I'm headed the same direction. It's almost as if they could perhaps benefit from some counseling on how to fill this out and what we're actually requiring, because they're missing a lot. And in fact, the questions they did answer, they answered as minimally as they could possibly do, and didn't really describe and explain anything. For example, what just scrolled by on our screen, they're describing and explain the difference between the amount requested and the reduced amount. Okay, $1,000. What does that tell us? Explain to us what that means to you. So I don't know what's been done in the past. It seems as if they don't do it right, we kick it out of the system and not do anything more with it. The other option is to give them until our next meeting to get it straight. And I'm thinking that we're going to need to talk about and give our recommendations probably next week, if that works in people's schedules. And so if we give them until next week to get it squared away, and if they do, fine, we can look at it. And if they don't, well, that takes care of that. But that's kind of where my mind was going. I'd sure like your feedback on that.
I honestly, I feel like everybody else, they all had the same amount of time to get this done, and everybody else seemed to do it. And it's only fair that my opinion, I think it's only fair that we review those who did fulfill the requirements that we asked and turned in the packets. Because we can have somebody else come and tell us, hey, well, you gave them a chance, I forgot this or that. And I know Lindsay's was just it was just a signature, but I mean, for the most part, everybody else turned in what we asked, and they did the best of their ability, and this was just nothing turned in.
Okay, thank you. Lindsay?
Yeah, I'm of the same opinion that I think it's hard when you compare it to other similar projects like the Miss Sunnyside Committee that did include everything, and they were here to ask questions. And I know it's not saying they have to be here, but I just think when you combine the two, it's hard to compare, especially like when you say it's, we don't know what we're looking at financially. So it's hard to, if we gave them for both of their projects, 10,000, it'd take away from another project that gave us all the information. I don't think that that's exactly fair.
Okay,
If I
So,
can make a comment, I just
Yes.
want to let you guys know that we have provided direction to them in the last few years. Also last year when they submitted that incomplete, I let him know what was wrong with the application, which is why it wasn't reviewed. And again, on the 19th, that day, we were emailing back and forth and letting him know because he had submitted it electronically, again, just the 3 sheets at the beginning. And so I gave him, hey, you're missing this, you're missing this. I'll need 7 copies. And so I think he came in like at 3:30 and he paid for copies here. So direction was provided to them.
yeah, well, that answers most of my questions. Then I would agree with the other members of the committee. It seems as if we're going to let that one go and not consider that one for funding for next year. So that being the case, then the same thing for the other one, the Insanity Showdown. Do we have the same feelings about that one?
Yeah, and I believe, I don't know if anybody else looked, but I thought they're, from what I was reading, and I could be wrong, their, I guess, license, they're not, if I read right, it's expired.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know if Lindsay looked at it or Dean, if you guys looked at that.
I didn't pick up on the license, but
Not the lights, it's right here where it says for the, I believe it's the 9-9. Or they're not considered an organization. I could,
okay.
but again, they didn't fill out, it was incomplete. They didn't do any of the requirements. So I don't, I didn't really pay attention because, or kind of go through it, I guess, because they didn't have any of the requirements that we had asked.
Right. And I saw the same thing with both of them. I looked at them and they didn't have the requirements, and that kind of bothered me. And, and I wasn't sure whether it was just me because it was at the end of the day when I had a chance to look at this one and I was tired and things might have bothered me anyway. But I was disappointed with the lack of information provided on either of these. So if the committee is not objecting, we can go ahead and kick both of those out. And all right.
I agree.
Okay, very good. So the next item here, let me get to the right page. See where we are on the agenda here. Okay, so I have item D. Consider reviewing an application received from Sunnyside Rotary Club for 2020 lodging tax funds, and consider recommendation to City Council for approval.
This was something that was just brought up to me the Monday before the deadline for 2021. So they wanted me to try and see what if we could do something, because of all the murals that have gone up that Chase has done. He talked to us about doing one specifically for the parade. And putting the date on and when it would be, and something that people could go to, and maybe during that time of year we could put lights, spotlights on there, and people could take pictures by it. Different ideas were thrown around. I included just an example of a mural that he's done in town. And as far as the amount, that is what he said it would take to do the mural. And then for the 3,000, it's just the more of course, the more money, the more detailed it can be. And so that's why we thought it was something that may qualify, because it was something that, people, our hope is that, get posted on social media and add hashtags to it and things like that. He said he could get it done before this year, before our stationary one that we're having, and something that we could use for future advertising also. So that's just what I know so far.
Okay. Any other comments? Amy?
I did see that it was incomplete as well. There was no, I don't know if that falls in there, Jackie. Would it fall? Yes, because this is advertisement, correct?
Yeah. So that's the other thing is that when I turned this in, I didn't, because I hadn't done a regular one, and it was done so last minute that I didn't take into consideration the new things that we needed. So this one is also incomplete. So I will.
Lindsay, this application is for 2020 funds, correct?
Yes. Yeah. If
So
possible.
yeah, that proposal, the request for proposal didn't require that. And I know we normally don't consider, in the past, they haven't considered 2020 funds outside of the requested time, but Lindsay had asked, and so I said, well, you know, they did review the veterans one, so I guess it doesn't hurt to ask. So
yeah, that's
the worst you can say is no.
Oh, okay, so this is for this coming December.
Yeah. And that's kind of what they instructed me coming from, you know, our new Rotary president. That's what she said, that at least we can try and see what can happen. So that's what this is.
So the intention is to get this mural up and painted before the parade this year?
Yes. And he has said that he can do that.
Okay.
Because I know on here it says if does it provide tourism there, like this whole thing wasn't answered on page 6.
Oh. Yeah, I was not sure how it I think I put that in the part above it. Does it promote tourism? And I think I put it in the part above it as does it lodge or feed tourists?
Okay.
So that answer is right there.
Okay, other comments on this item? Again, this was requesting money for this current year. I'm going to be honest, I'm a little reluctant on this one. I like the idea of the mural, but it's coming really late, and we are talking about money for 2021 at this point. 2020 should have requested a year ago, and I understand because with the COVID thing, all of a sudden these murals started coming up, and we're seeing how nice they look around the city, and people are impressed by those. But we have a schedule that we have to work with, and we had to have all sorts of special meetings with the Veterans Plaza. And yeah, this one is for 2021, this particular meeting. And so I'm not sure it has a place here, but that's just my opinion. But we will get some pushback from council on this one, I think. So, and like Lindsay said, this was kind of a last minute, throw it in and see what happens.
Mm-hmm.
And, but I think it's out of place in this particular meeting, to be honest.
Okay. And I will say I did as an LTAC member say that because my opinion, if it was another group that came into this, that's what I would be saying. So I kind of had to approach it as both an LTAC member and part of the Rotary.
Uh-huh.
So I get that.
Okay. Any other comments? Amy, do you want to chime in on this one?
I mean, I agree with what you were saying. You know, this we're doing the 2020, so I agree with you on
Okay.
this one.
If there's another way we can figure out how to fund that, that would be fine. There may even be sponsors in the community who are willing to do that, but I think our sponsors may, after this year, be sponsored out too. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I know there has been enthusiasm for the murals that have been appearing, so there may be ways that we haven't thought of yet to fund that as well. So, but
Okay. Not a problem. I will let them know.
very good. Thank you for that. Thank you for being understanding on that one.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, our next agenda items is items from committee members. So since I'm still reversing and being bold and new, Lindsay, do you have any items to bring before this committee at this point?
No, no, well, I'm sorry, I do. I have one thing. I want to at least have in our notes that after the decisions have been made, that we need to schedule a meeting of some kind. We had talked about this last year also, and then everything happened, of discussing our budget, our annual budget, and where that money is going to go, and maybe making a plan of if there's something else that we want this money to go towards, besides our signature events and everything like that. So, and also is there a budget, was a budget sent out, like emailed out or anything before this meeting?
I didn't see a copy of that. Did you send it out, Jackie?
We had one last in the July one, so I didn't send an updated just because it was basically the same. The only thing that has changed is I think the revenue, but I had it up here one moment. And so I will send it out. Oh, hold on, it's wrong window. I will send it out so everybody can see here. Can you see that?
Yes.
Yeah. And you
Okay.
are correct. Yeah, you did send it out in July. I think
That's okay. What I'm going to do is I'm going to send this to you, and then I'm also going to send you a spreadsheet saying, like, let's say this, you sponsored all these organizations for this amount, that amount, this is what you would have left. And then I think that it would be safe to say, so this is the revenue part. This is what we're actually receiving. What we received to date is $45,471.50. And so obviously that should be, I think we're August, so it should be past 50%. So the revenue is down, like we've said in previous meetings. So I don't know, I think it would be safe to say that like next year's budget would be like 80,000. So we double that of that's what we think revenue is. 80,000 of revenue is going to come in is what I'm guessing.
okay.
Does the amount that we didn't use last year roll over into that?
It does roll into it, but I'll get you all of those numbers so that you know how much is rolling over, but we have to be very careful. Obviously, we don't know what these next few years are going to be like. So
Okay.
if it were me, I would probably, and obviously the finance director can tell me different, but I would just base it off of what we've received this year so far.
Anything else, Lindsay?
Nope, that was it.
Okay.
So I can
Amy?
add that as an agenda item next meeting. Would you like that
Yes.
before
Great.
you do those considerations? Okay.
Amy?
I think Lindsay answered the questions that I had.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so my comment on all of this today, we brought it up now several times, is the revenue has been somewhat reduced. And like I said earlier, it was reported in today's paper even that countywide LTAC revenues have dropped by some 40%. Or I can't remember if it was at 40% of where they should be or if they've dropped by 40%. But either way, it's a significant decrease in where we were expecting to be. And as we look at these proposals, as I read over them, I noticed that most of them are at where they were before or higher as far as requests for funding. And I understand costs have gone up. I see that all the time in everything that I'm dealing with as well. We need to be real thoughtful about our recommendations on all of these and consider how much we recommend to council will be spent on each of these events, because our funds are limited. They are significantly down from where we expected them to be. And no surprise there, obviously, with the economies being shut down, people aren't spending as much time traveling, spending as much time in hotels. For a while there was a genuine fear of exposure to a virus in a hotel room. We didn't know how clean they are. And I mean, there's been jokes for years about things found in motel rooms. And so people were concerned. And then we've been told to stay home, so we're not traveling as much. So we need to be real mindful of that when we make our recommendations at our next meeting at how much we fund these events and how much we hope to have for the future. And that affects, well, it affects Lindsay and Amy quite a bit, obviously, because your events are part of this that we're discussing. But I guess that's a comment that I want to make, that we have to be careful about the funds that we have, because we don't have an unlimited amount. So, and that's, go ahead.
Question. So am I correct in that we can, even if it goes below the lowest amount that was requested, we can still suggest that an amount that's lower, right?
That's right.
Okay.
We can make a recommended amount of, as I understand it, we can recommend the amount that we want.
Okay.
So if somebody wants 31,000, we say, yeah, we can afford to spend 8,000 on you. We are able to do that, and council then can come back and say, no, we want you to give them more, or we want you to give them less. We'll get those. I mean, we've been through that already in the last couple of years. But still, we can recommend whatever we would like. So.
Okay.
Okay, with that, move on to the next one, the lodging tax funds agreement. I'm missing a piece here on this. Well, it's under items from staff members, item 3, and then the lodging tax fund agreement. So this is the one that Mr. Casey wanted to speak to.
You ready?
If so, you're up, sir.
All right. So over the course of this year, as I'm sure everyone's well aware, we've seen some very significant disruptions to tourism activities, and this illuminated for council that and for city staff that our historic template for our tourism services agreements really hadn't anticipated some of the kinds of disruptions that can occur. And yet, you know, looking at this industry and looking at other organizations, larger venues that provide either convention services and the like, or have these larger scale events, it's fairly common to have protections in the contracts that really clearly spells out what happens if an event must be canceled at the last minute due to unforeseen circumstances, such as a natural disaster, or in this case, public health orders. And you know, what are the protections and obligations that each of the parties enter into to recover expenses and properly document them. And so at the request of council earlier this year, we referred to the city attorney, the general templates that we've been using, and asked the city attorney to research some sample language that would address those concerns, and just kind of take a look at the template generally. So we've gotten that back from the attorney, wanted to run through their suggestions with you now. Some of these, want to be very clear, fall in the realm of council discretion. Some of these are not changes that are mandated by law or mandated by specific case law, but are fairly common in the area of contracts activity. But council does have some latitude, and the city has some latitude in how strict or loose we leave these criteria. And that's kind of part of what the attorney will be interested in, is the guidance from the city as to how we want to structure this. With that, Jackie's got the document up on the screen. There is some general cleanup that we're doing. And I don't know if Jackie, if you can shrink the display just a little bit. There we go. So kind of converting, showing a template, you'll see a lot of blanks for the parties to the contract to be named and where those would be inserted. In section 1C, one thing that we noticed is throughout the document over the years, different names for the same thing have been used in different places. So Chapter 6728 is the lodging tax under state law. And in fact, you're of course most familiar with the phrase Lodging Tax Advisory Committee. But in the Sunnyside Municipal Code, as adopted in the mid-1980s, we refer to it as the transient occupancy tax. They're essentially one and the same, but it was a little confusing to the attorney why we call it two different things. And actually later in the document, you'll see down there in D, we threw in a new name, hotel motel tax. So we are cleaning that up and using lodging tax consistently through the rest of the agreement. And as best we can tell, that's the main kind of little cleanup item we've got. Let's scroll down to section 2 of the agreement, and section 2B and subsection 1. Let's bring all of the edits there up visible. There we go. So this is where we worked with the attorney on trying to tighten up the procedures and requirements around payment of invoices. A few years back, the city had received an audit of the LTAC funds, and one of the recommendations the auditor made at that time was not required or wasn't issued as a finding, but they did feel it was a control issue, matter of accountability and controls, is that in addition to an itemized invoice or billing for services, the auditor strongly prefers that local governments require documentation of all payments made for such purchases through a canceled check or other banking records, some documentation of the financial transaction. City is not able to make cash payments, and so that's been kind of a concern for the auditors. So we've proposed something there for consideration. We'll keep going down further. All right. G is the other new language suggested by the attorney. And just basically, it was not always present in our agreements, although there was similar language in some of them. But this was something we worked up to kind of standardize it. The notion of early termination and what are the protections and provisions associated with that. Basically, either party can give 30 days advance written notice to the other party. In the event of an early termination in writing, the request for reimbursement, anything that's been incurred prior to the date of the notice of termination will be processed as already described above. Any other expenditures that come in between the notice of termination and the effective date of termination would remain subject to review and prior approval by the city. Sometimes there are some demobilizing costs that may be incurred after the notice of termination. So as long as we're both on the same page on that, that seemed reasonable. And then lastly, we'll scroll down one more to J. Whoops, force majeure. This is a very common provision and was strongly recommended by the city's insurance authority and has is in use in a lot of other cities and other convention centers and so forth. It essentially protects and indemnifies the city that if something completely or unforeseen or as a result of legal requirement or decision of a health officer, something like that occurs, or is in effect on the date the event is scheduled to take place, it does essentially protect the city of Sunnyside from from potentially a very high bill. I'm looking at what's going on in California right now, and there are cities having to cancel, even even not thinking in terms of COVID, where they're having to cancel and evacuate due to the wildfires that have been initiated by these lightning strikes in the last few weeks. this is something that the Washington Cities Insurance Association actually put together as a recommendation for all of their member cities to begin incorporating in their agreements. And with that, those are the main changes or amendments, and the attorneys are basically waiting for further guidance and reactions as to, what direction LTAC or the city want to take with this.
Thank you, Mr. Casey. Committee members, any comments or questions on this? Amy, what have you got?
I don't have any at this time.
Okay, thank you. Lindsay?
I don't have any. Sorry, I lost my video, so I was trying to fix that, but I'm still here. I do not have any questions.
Okay, thank you. So I guess my only comment was, we had talked about the question of early termination earlier this year. I'm glad that is now in the contract. I think that is beneficial both to the city and to the other parties involved. So I think that's a good one. The force majeure, that's not one that I had heard of before, but I can definitely appreciate the value to the city in that one. We have a perfect example this year of things happening outside of our control. And hopefully we never have to deal with wildfires here in Sunnyside, canceling events, but still having something like that to protect the city, I think we need to keep that in mind. So I'm glad that that's in there as well. So,
and I would also point out, sorry, Chair Boersma, I would also like to point out, while you're correct that it, of course, protects the city. However, it's also an important protection for event organizers. And I'll use an example, just kind of a personal example, which is that most folks know that every few years I like to get to Las Vegas for a Star Trek convention. And this year, like every year, the convention host, the organizing event sponsor, in this case, it's an outfit called Creation Entertainment. If you want to buy the tickets and reserve your seat and purchase photo ops and autographs from Star Trek celebrities and so forth, they make very clear that as a convention attendee, all of their fees and charges are non-refundable. And part of the reason for that is because they are under contract with a Las Vegas casino for the use of their convention center, and their fees that they are on the hook for to that convention center are likewise non-refundable unless that convention center is obligated to invoke the force majeure clause. The force majeure clause essentially works to for the convention center to say basically, okay, at this point, you are, we're being forced by a health official or by a disaster to essentially break the agreement and cancel on short notice. And in most of their contracts with then between the event sponsor and their sub-vendors, they likewise will use that force majeure as the mechanism for them to say, okay, if we're put in this position because of a health order or something, then that's our out from the obligation as well. And so that's really the only circumstance under which those of us who bought tickets for the convention were going to get our money back if they had to cancel, which in fact they did. It was supposed to have occurred actually this month. And so, it can work to protect the event organizers as well, because it's something, if they if they work that into their contracts with their vendors and others, then it can protect them as well.
Excellent. Thank you for that. Thank you for that clarification. So I'm going to say, if there is no objection, then that we can move this on to council for approval. These contracts need to be approved by council, not by us. So
well, and actually, according to the city attorney, the council doesn't necessarily need to approve the contract language. That's an administrative function, but any contracts awarded would be approved by council.
correct. Okay. Very good.
But if you want, I think certainly it's appropriate to brief council on the work that's being done administratively to update the contracts and make sure it is consistent with the interest and direction that council's been providing.
Yeah, I definitely want this to go before council, have them at least have a look at it, whether they need to approve it or not. I think that they need to be made aware of these changes. I think they're important changes. I think this helps clarify things. The earlier changes we made to the application process and the requirements that we've asked for these applicants to fulfill has been extremely helpful to me. And others have mentioned that they have liked those as well. So I think we're moving in a good direction. I'm happy to see, that the committee members are making these recommendations, even though in some cases it means a little bit more work for them. But I think we've made some good progress on a couple of things this year. So I'm extremely pleased. Open it up for comments from the committee as well. Lindsay or Amy, have you got anything to say?
I don't at this time.
Okay, Lindsay?
I do not know.
Perfect. Okay, hang on just a second. Whenever I'm in a meeting, I become the most popular person on the planet. So, okay, other items from staff members.
I don't have any at this time.
Okay, Jackie, have you got anything to contribute to the cause?
I do not. You tell me when you want your next meeting and I'll make sure it gets scheduled.
That is our next item, future meetings. It's got future agenda items on my agenda. And I'm going to say that we are probably looking at making our recommendations for the LTAC funding for 2021. And then we had talked about the budget question that Lindsay had brought up, and we put those two items on there, or we could postpone the budget question until later this fall. But I'm seeing those two items on there. And anything else you would like to see added?
We can wait on the budget
Okay.
until the fall.
Okay.
But I do have a question about the other committee members. Have there been any word back on them?
No, and that's the next thing that we're going to talk about just before adjournment.
Okay.
Yep. All right, so setting a date for our next meeting. Excuse me a second, I'm going to go grab my calendar a minute. I am just going to throw in a personal preference. I would love to do this again next Wednesday morning, that being the only slot that is open in the next 2 weeks on my agenda for during the day. Is that okay with others?
Yeah, is there a certain time that's best for you?
For me, anytime before 10:30 or 11. I guess I have to be done by 11.
Okay.
I'm trying to look and see when kinder is starting, because that's my daughter. I got her clicked on Zoom and she started early, but kinder, my son's, he's only 5, so he's not. I would have to, help him with that, but I don't think kinder is starting, and I think they start the 1st, so I should be good.
Okay, well, Wednesday is the 2nd.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm good on the 2nd. Yes.
So Wednesday morning, the 2nd at, did you guys like 9 a.m.?
I think that's okay. I don't know. Wednesday.
Yeah, 9 is fine.
Okay. So then my next question, Jackie, does that give enough lead time for that? Because this is a public meeting, I believe. Is that give enough lead time to get that published and for people to know?
Yes, I just need to publish it 24 hours in advance, but
Okay.
knowing this and what the agenda is going to be like, I can just send that out now.
Okay. So any other comments on next Wednesday morning?
Nope.
If not, let's schedule it for Wednesday morning at 9 a.m.
Okay.
And we'll get those recommendations out and then we can pass those along to council. All right, the next item is we have had a couple of members absent for the last few meetings. Mr. Beeler and Mr. Denley both. We have not heard from Mr. Beeler at all for some time. And what is the committee's position on this, or desire on this, should I say?
I know last meeting, I think you had said you were going to see if you can get a hold of him.
And I was unable to do that.
Okay.
And I can continue to make the attempt. I have no problem with that. I will continue to try to get a hold of him.
Jackie, have you gotten any?
I haven't received any responses and from him by email or by phone. And I also have his agenda packet here. I was gonna mail it to him. It's just I don't want to give his address out, but it's here. I just didn't want to stop by because I know there's multiple residences in that area, so I don't want to get the wrong place or be somewhere I'm not supposed to be. So what I'm gonna do is we have time. We have a week. I'm gonna mail this out and let him know if it's okay with Chair that I sent this out and just say, hey, we haven't heard from you. Hoping everything's okay. I mean, that's the same message I leave every time.
Right. And I haven't seen them around town either for some time. So I'm assuming that they're at work and they live at their work. So we will continue to make the attempt, but this marks the third, I believe, unexcused absence for Mr. Beeler, and we do have we have the right to take some steps on that. And I guess first I have to ask, does the committee want to excuse Mr. Beeler for today?
I would say,
Unexcused.
yeah, unexcused.
And I would agree with that. So he is unexcused for today. And we will continue to make an attempt to get in touch with him. If we can't get in touch with him, then we are going to have to consider replacing him on this committee. And keeping that in mind, think of someone who is appropriate for this committee who could possibly serve. We do have to have members who both receive these funds and pay these taxes. And so we have to be mindful of who it is that's able to be on here. But like I said, I will try to get in touch with him. Jackie will send out the packet and see if we can get a response from him. So the next question then to Mr. Denley. Jackie, did you hear from him? Did he say that he was going to try? Did he give you any response at all?
Yes. So I've spoken to him throughout these last few weeks and in the previous meeting. He says he's just really busy. He was going to try to attend this meeting, which is why he asked me to send by mail his packet. He says he's on site at the Clarkston Hotel, and so he's constantly being pulled away. He says, I'm by the contractor asking questions, or he's actually reviewing things. So he says it's a little difficult for him, but that he was going to try. And then after that, I haven't heard anything from him.
Okay, so what is the desire of the committee as far as excusing Mr. Denley or not?
I mean, I'd say excuse just because he made contact with Jackie.
Okay, Lindsay?
Yeah, that's what I was trying to think. I would say excused, yes, because at least he's made contact. Yeah.
Okay, I would agree with that. So then if there's no objection, Mr. Denley is excused. Mr. Beeler is not. Very good. I see nothing else on my agenda. If there's no objection, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone, and I hope the rest of your day goes exceptionally well.
Thank you.
Very much, sir.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good day.
All right, thanks for being here.
Bye-bye.